everyone. So now we are going to study about our unit number 4, chapter number 11, that is the pattern based design. So in the pattern based design, first of all we will see what is the design pattern. So each of us has encountered a design problem and silently thought that I wonder if anyone has developed a solution for this problem. That is, whenever you want to design any application, what is your first thinking? The first thinking is, can I hope that is anyone is there who can provide a solution for my problem. So what if there was a standard way of describing a problem, so you could look it up and an organized method for representing the solution to the problem. So the design patterns are a codified method for describing problems, and their solution allows the software engineering community to capture design knowledge in a way that enables it to be reused. That is, the design patterns are, you are going to design your pattern so that anyone can use these patterns as a solution for their problem, and they can enable to reuse that particular solutions for developing their applications. So now next one is the design pattern. So we will see the design patterns are, so each pattern describe a problem that occurs over and over again in our environment and then describes the core for the solution to that problem in such a way that you can use the solution a million times over without ever doing it the same way twice. That is, if I given the pattern for saving the file, that is a control S, then you can see that still we are using the same pattern control S for the saving the file. So this is the pattern which is described for saving the file on your PCs. So this is a type of patterns which you are giving as a solution to your user, which you can use the twice or n number of a time whenever you need it. So Christopher Alexander in 1977 said that a three-part rule which express a resolution or the relation between a certain context, a problem and a solution. So there should be a three parts which express a relation between what are the contexts, what are the problems and what are the solutions. So here you are going to say that what are the contents of your problem, that is what is the context, what are the what are the problems which arises for your customers, and what type of a solution you are going to your customer. So second one is the basic concepts are, so we can say that what is the context. So context allows the reader to understand the environment in which the problem resides and what solution might be appropriate within that environment. So the context is what, whenever you are providing the solution of the problem to your end user, whenever it reads, such as we can say that the pamphlets or the manuals of our application. So whenever you vouch anything, such as if you vouch one new mobile phone or the iPhone, it can you can see the manual of that, means you by reading that particular manual you can understand how to use your application. So this is the solution which is written, which is in the written form, and you can read that solution and you can use your applications in an environment which is which whatever available by your developer. So a set of requirements including limitations and constraints acts as a system of force that influence how the problem can be interpreted within its context and how the solution can be effectively applied. So whenever the system of forces that is depend on the requirements, such as the limitations and the constraints, at what type of limitations are your applications have, or what type of constraints are there for your application. So if the system forces are, first one is the problem can be interpreted within its context, that is the problem should need to be interpreted, and how the solution can be effectively applied. So whenever your problem is your problem is defined and you can able to understand complete problem, then you should need to describe effective solution for your problems. So now next one is, there are the effective patterns are, the coupling or characterizes an effective design pattern in the following ways. So first one is, it solves a problem. That is, patterns capture solution, not just abstract principle or strategies. That is, whatever the pattern you describe as a solution, they should need to uh, provide a separate or the satisfied solution to your problem. Second one is it is a proven concept. Second one is it is a proven concept, that is a patterns capture solutions with a track record, not theories or speculations. That is, whatever track of the solutions you are going to provide it, you should need to create the track of all the solutions, so that it could be easily understood by all the users of your application. The third one is the solution is not obvious. That is, many problem solving techniques such as software design paradigms or the methods, they try to derive solutions from first principles. That is, the best patterns generate a solution to a problem indirectly, a necessary approach for the most difficult problems of a design. That is, the solution is not obvious. That is, when you given the solution, you cannot say that it is a specific or it is a accurate solution of your problem. Whenever the new problem can be arises, you can create the patterns, or you can take your previous pattern for describing the solution of your current situation. Next one is it describe a relationship pattern. That is, pattern does not don't just describe modules but describe deeper system structure and mechanism. That is, if you see means the query of your customer is you want to create the login form. So what is your it describe a relationship. So what is the relationship? The relationship is you should need to be the member of that particular website, such as if you take the Facebook as your website, Facebook as a your domain, and you are going to log in for your account. So what is required? First of all, you should require the user ID and the password. When your user ID and password is validated, then you can log into your form. But if you don't have a user ID and password, then you should need to describe or describe the module, that is register yourself first. So these are the different type of modules you should need to present to your end user. Now next one is the pattern has a significant human component, that is minimize human interventions. All software serves humans comforts or quality of a life. The best pattern explicitly appeal to aesthetic and utility. That is, whatever the pattern you describe, they should need to be comfort with the quality of a human. That is, your pattern is need to be understood by your designer, so that the designer can implement it in your system, and it could be understood by the end user, so that your end user can use your particular pattern or your system. Now next one is the generative pattern. We will see what is the generative patterns are. So the generative patterns describes an important and repeatable aspects of a system, and then provide us with a way to build that aspects within a system of forces that are unique to a given context. So here we can apply our login form. These are the generative pattern, that whatever website you are opening, when you want to access the particular website, you should need to be a part of that particular website. That is, you need login ID and the password. So this is the important and repeatable aspects of a system. That is, whenever you want to use your system, you should need to authenticate yourself by using the login ID and the password, and n number of systems using these patterns. So these are the generative patterns. A collection of generative design patterns could be used to generate an application or computer based system whose architecture enables it to adapt to the change. That is, once your user ID and passwords are changed, your system should need to update that user ID and password in your databases. So these are the generative patterns. They means they are the general patterns which are used by the n number of systems. Now next one is the kinds of a pattern. We will see the different kinds of a pattern. The first one is the architectural pattern. We will see what is the architectural patterns are. So architectural pattern describe broad-based design problems that are solved using a structural approach. The architectural patterns are, when you are going to design your home, what is the first we think? The first one is architecture of your home. That is the pattern of your home, how it is looked. That is it could be a 3D view of your home. That is, where are the doors, where are the windows, where are the walls, where are the ceilings. So all these things are should need to be described before developing of your house. So this is the architectural pattern. That is, you should need to describe the architecture of your or problem, that is a structural solution for your problem. Next one is the data patterns. So data patterns describe recurring data oriented problems and the data modeling solutions that can be used to solve them. So this is the data patterns are, if we take the example of building our means you are going to build the bank. So bank, what requires for your bank? The bank should be a authorized bank, the IFSC code of your bank, the MICR code, its registration code, its branch code. So these are the data patterns, means these are the used by n number of banks. And next one is the components patterns. So what are the components pattern? We will see. The components patterns, also referred as a design pattern, address problems associated with the development of a subsystem and components, the manner in which they communicate with one another and their placement within a large architecture. That is, if we take the example of ATM machine which are used by the n number of people, that is, it is having the large architecture. By the ATM machine you can do n number of the applications, such as you can withdraw amount, you can deposit amount, by balance inquiry, you can link your PAN card, Aadhaar card. So these facilities, if we say that if it is a previously ATM machines, then it have the component patterns, such as the ATM machine can only means deposit or withdraw your amount. So for the deposit, you can the deposit option was not available previously, but once the changes are done, or for the futures also the changes are performed, now you can deposit your amount by using the machine itself, or you can link your PAN card or the Aadhaar card. So these are the component patterns. So whenever the communication takes place between the n number of peoples and their expectations are large, then your architecture should need to be capable of handling all those requested with the latest requirements of the end user. Now next one is the interface design patterns. So it describes common user interface problems and their solution with a system of forces that include the specific characteristics of the end user. This is what the common user interface problems, that is the interface design. We can say that you should need to have your ATM card for doing all this purpose. Now you can say that if you take the example of YONO SBI, then there is no need of you can do the cardless payment. If we say some Google Pay or the Phone Pay, only you have to register first your ATM card, and there is no need of your ATM cards again and again, your Visa cards again and again for doing the transaction. You can enter your 6-digit PIN and you can do your transaction. So this is the interface design pattern, that is the interface which you require for doing your transactions. Next is the web app patterns. Now web app patterns addresses a problem set that is encountered when building web apps and often incorporates many of the other patterns categories just mentioned, such as problems that encounter when building web apps and often incorporates many of the other patterns. As we say that the ATM machines, whatever transaction you are doing, first of all requirement is your internet should need to be a of a good quality. Means whatever transactions are performed by your user, they should need to be they should need a quick response from your machine. So for that, first of all the web app patterns first of all you require the high quality of the internet. So these are all the pattern we discussed with our ATM machine. So these are the kind of patterns. You can design patterns for any type, such as you can design it for your other type of systems. Now next one is, if we take more example for our design patterns or the kinds of patterns, then it could be a cringe. First one is a creational patterns. So what are the creational patterns then? So the creational patterns focuses on the creation, composition and representation of a object, such as if you see the ATM machine, then what is the ATM machine? It will says that the first creation is the window, that is what is the means what is the alignment of your text, what is the size of your text, that is it could be seen by any people, that means the one who is performing the transaction. So this is the creation, compositions and representation of the objects. How you are going to represent the objects, such as if I said that the side buttons or the touch screen. So touch screen, if I put the option as a balance inquiry, then the touch will be generated and you can check or the machine will generate your current available balance of your account, such as the withdrawal, deposit. So these are the creational patterns. So it is a abstract factory pattern, or we can say it as it is a centralized decision of what factory to instantiates, or factory method pattern, centralized creation of an object of a specific type, choosing one of a several implementation. So you are going to take some several implementation by specifying your object and the creation. Now next one is the structural pattern. So structural patterns focus on problems and solution associated with how classes and objects are organized and integrated to build a large structure. For example, such as the adapter pattern and aggregate pattern. So what is the adapter pattern? It adapts one interface for a class into one that a client expect. An aggregate pattern, that is a version of the composite pattern with methods for aggregation of a children. That is, if I said that I want to create one FD, so what is the needed things? So needed things is your account should have a specific balance so that you can generate or you can create your FD. So this is the structural patterns. Then whenever you open your account, you should need to be, it should need to be display your balance, or your whatever amount of account you have than particular bank, and you should need to be select that particular account from the list of the accounts, and you can do the transactions with the specified account that you want. Now next one is the behavioral pattern. So what are the behavioral pattern then? So behavioral pattern address problem associated with the assignment of responsibility between objects and the manner in which communication is effective between objects. For example, the chain of responsibility pattern. So we will see the chain of responsibility patterns are command objects are handled or passed on to other objects by logic containing processing object, and command patterns, that is the command objects encapsulate an action and it is parameters. So encapsulation is done here, that is whatever pin you are entering, that is only visible to, that is known to you only, and your database is going to check that pin. There is no sharing of your pin to the third party so that they can do the transaction, they can withdraw the amount from your account. So this is all your kinds of the pattern. Now next one is the framework. We will see what is the framework then. The framework is, that is, a pattern themselves may not be sufficient to develop a complete design. That is, whenever the requirements are changed, your patterns will get changed. That is the size of, if we take the example of our house, if suppose the area is changed, you don't want wall from right side of your house, so the pattern is changed. So for that you after the pattern you are going to design your house. So in some cases it may be necessary to provide an implementation specific skeleton infrastructure called a framework for design work, that is the 3D view of your pattern. That is, you can select a reusable mini architecture that provides the generic structure and behavior for a family of software abstractions along with a context which specifies their collaboration and use within a given domain. So framework is not an architectural pattern but rather a skeleton with a collection of plug points, also called hooks and slots, that enables it to be adapted to a specific problem domain. So the plug point enables you to integrate problem specific classes or functionality within the skeleton. That is, the framework can elaborate your view very clearly. That is, if you see the 3D view of your house, you can imagine that the 3D view is more clear than your patterns of a design. That is, one page design is not sufficient for understanding how your house is going to be look like. So if you see the 3D view, you can see the color painting, or you can see the number of walls of your house, you can see the number of rooms, the sections which your house is going to be divided. So all these things are clear by using the framework. Now next one is describing the pattern. Now how can we describe our pattern? So first one is a pattern name, that is describing the essence of the pattern in a short but expensive name. If I take the ATM, the pattern name is the ATM machine. What is the problem then? Describe the problem that the pattern addresses. What type of a problems your patterns are going to be addresses? By using your ATM machine, you can withdraw, you can deposit, you can link your Aadhaar card, PAN card, you can check balance inquiries and many more. So what is the motivation of your pattern then? The motivation is to provide an example of the problem. Provide an example of a problem such as before using your ATM machine, you are providing some advertisement of your ATM machine. We can see it day by day in our TVs, that is how to handle a particular application or the new launched application. Next one is the context. We will see what is the context then. So describes the environment in which the problem resides, including application domain. So your problem is what you are going to withdraw, means you are going to withdraw, you are going to deposit in your account, including application domain. So what is the application domain? That is, you should need to be the user of that particular bank, or you should have your visa card, or you should have your net banking. So all these are the context. Now next, what is the forces then? So list the system of forces that affect the manner in which the problem must be solved, includes a decision of limitation and constraints that must be considered. That is, you should have to means you should have to enter the valid your PIN for all your problems or for your transactions. What is the solution? Provide a detailed description of the solution proposed for the problem. That is, if user say balance inquiry, then you can say that this is your name and your balance is this much. So this is the solution. What is the intent then? Describe the pattern and what it does. That is, when you are going to represent your context, you should need to describe its intent. That is, if you click on the withdrawal button, what withdraw option will do? That in withdrawal option, first of all, you should need to enter your PIN. After that, you should need to enter the withdrawal amount. If your ATM machine have only two trays of suppose only 500 rupees and 2000 rupees, then you cannot means you cannot enter 300 as your withdrawal amount, because the note is not present there. So these are the intent you should need to be described for your to your user. Next is the collaboration. Describe how other patterns contribute to the solution. In that, you can describe such as the LIC policies, the FDs which are connected with your account. Next one is the consequences. So what are the consequences? Describe the potential trade-offs that must be considered when the pattern is implemented and the consequences of using the pattern. That is the consequences, the number of the sequences. As I said that first of all enter your PIN, the next pattern is enter your amount, and then collect your amount. Now your transaction is successful. After that you can check your balance or you can exit your transaction. Next one is the implementation. So implementation identifies special issues that should be considered when implementing the pattern. That is, identify specific issues. That is, when you enter the wrong PIN, then what type of errors your system should need to be displayed to the user, so that he can the person who are going, or the customer who are going to do the transaction, can identify that I entered the wrong PIN. So these are the implementations. So next one is the known users. The known users are provide example of the actual uses of the design pattern in real applications. Such as you can provide it, you can means if you take the YONO SBI, when you take the ATM machine and you are going to perform the operation by using the ATM machine, then you can say that you can perform all this application from your home by using the YONO SBIs. So you can say the customer to open its YONO SBIs or the net banking for doing all this type of a transaction. Next one is the related patterns. That is a cross references related design patterns. That is for the LIC policies and for the FDs, what type of relations you are going to represent. Now next one is the pattern language. We will see what type of languages are there for the pattern. A pattern language encompasses a collection of patterns, each described using a standard templates and interrelated to show how these patterns collaborate to solve problem across an application domain. So if you take the ATM machine, the patterns and the languages, you can say that the ATM machine is written in some specific languages, and there should be need a connection between the pattern in analogies to the hypertext instructions, the manual problems, or the user can read that particular problems which are whatever the language you are using for your pattern, which is understood for your systems, and what you are going to represent your customer as a message, that should need to be understood by your customer. The problem domain under consideration is first described hierarchically, beginning with broad design problems associated with the domain, and then refining each of the broad problems into lower levels of the abstraction. That is, if the customer is only want to check the account balance, they can check it. First of all, and if suppose after withdrawal again is customer want to check their balance, they can check it. Or you means there should need not need to be the long way, that is after the withdrawal you can, means you are doing only one transaction at a time, that is only swapping of one card, you can only withdraw your amount, or you can only deposit the amount. Whatever transaction you want to perform, you can do it by only one swap. So this is the problem domain, you can solve it. Now next one is the pattern based design. So what is the pattern based design then? A software design begins with a relationship model, either explicit or the implied, that presents an abstract representation of a system. That is, a software described begins with a requirements models that present an abstract representation of a system. Then whenever you want to represent, or you want to create your application, first of all you will see some means requirements, you will collect all the requirements from your customer, and then you will design a pattern. And pattern based design, that is once your requirements are collected, you will design the pattern, and after that you will implement your design. So the requirements model describes the problem set, stabilize the context, and identifies the system of forces that holds well. Then what will be the next? That is, you will see here there are the design patterns. You can say that considered a design concept. So design begins with the requirements, that is you are collecting the requirements. After collecting the requirement, consider the design concepts, extract problem context forces, and consider design quality attributes. That is, you should need to focus on your design concept, that is you should need to focus on how your system will be user friendly for your customers. Extract problem context forces and consider design quality attributes such as addressed by the patterns. If all these things are addressed by your pattern, then you can begin pattern design task. If no, then apply other method and the notation and design your model. Now next one is thinking in a pattern. What is thinking in a pattern then? The Shaloway and Torot suggest the following approach that enables a designer to think in patterns. Be sure you understand the big picture, the context in which the software to be built resides. The requirements model should communicate these to you. This is what whenever you are going to design your ATM machine, or you are going to design your cardless transaction, you should need to be understand or keep in mind whatever type of the securities you should need to provide to your customer, so that their transaction is a safe transaction. Second one is examine the big picture. Extract the patterns that are present at that level of the abstraction. Begin your design with the big picture. That is, patterns that establish a context or skeleton for further design work. That is, when you design a system, your system should need to be able to do the changes whenever the requirements of the customer will increase. Next one is work inward from the context, looking for patterns at lower level of abstraction that contributes to the design solution. Repeat 1 to 4 until the complete design is fleshed out, and refine the design by adapting each pattern to the specifics of the software you are trying to build. So do this all type of the tasks or thinking in before developing your pattern. So there are the different design tasks. We will see that the first one is the design task. First one is examine the requirements model and develop a problem hierarchy. That is, your requirement model is your customer should need to create his account, withdraw amount, deposit amount, and balance inquiry. Then create the hierarchy, that what are the steps. First of all, enter your card, enter your PIN, then select your transaction. Determine if a reliable pattern language has been developed for the problem. That is, first of all, you should need to design a reliable language for your pattern. Then beginning with a broad problem and determine whether one or more architectural patterns are available for it. So for that you should need to design the criteria. No two people should have a same card number, no two people have the same card number and the same user ID and the password. So these are the criteria you should need to describe in your hierarchical pattern. Next one is using the collaborations provided for the architectural pattern. Examine subsystem or component level problem and search for appropriate pattern to address them. So this is what, once you collaborate your architecture pattern and examine subsystem, that is your sub operations which are going to perform in your system, you can merge it and you can develop the pattern to address all these solutions. You can repeat the step 2 to 5 until all your problems are addressed and you define the solution. Next one is, if user interface design problem have been isolated, this is always the case. Search the many user interface design pattern repositories for appropriate pattern, regardless of its level of abstraction. If a problem language or a pattern repository or individual pattern shows promises, compare the problem to be solved against the existing pattern presented. That is, when your pattern is generated, you apply your pattern with the problems, define the solution. If your solution is matched with your pattern, then this could be a good pattern for your application to be developed. So be certain to refine the design as it is derived from pattern using design quality criteria as a guide. Now next one is pattern organization table. Here you can organize your pattern such as a database, as a application, implementation and infrastructure. These are the problem statements, that is a data which are going to be arranged in your databases. The architectures of your application, architecture of application such it consisting of the patterns, or you are going to provide the infrastructure by your architecture. The component levels are with the problem statement, you are going to provide some application problem domain. Again you are going to implement your component level and you are going to infrastructure your component level. The user interfaces, you are providing the complete application to your user which is implemented by your user. That is, it can implement a number of the transaction by using your application. Now next one is, you should need to focus on these common mistakes before developing your pattern. So not enough time has been spent to understand the underlying problem, its context and forces, and as a consequences you select a pattern that looks right but is inappropriate for the solution requires. Once the wrong pattern is selected, you refuse to see your errors and force fit the pattern. In other cases, the problem has forces that are not considered by the pattern you have chosen, resulting in the poor or incorrect erroneous fit. Sometimes a pattern is applied too literally and the required adaptations for your problem space are not implemented. Next one is the architectural pattern. So we will see the architectural pattern as example is, every house and every architecture style for houses employs a kitchen pattern, such as the kitchen pattern and pattern is collaborate with the address problem associated with the storage and preparation of a food, the tools required to accomplish the task, rules of placement of these tools relative to workflow in room. In addition, the pattern might address problem associated with countertops, lighting, walls, central slant, flooring, and so on. Obviously, there is more than a single design for a kitchen, often dictated by the context and system of forces, but every design can be conceived within the context of the solution suggested by the TA kitchen. That is, n number of people are going to build the kitchens and everyone's requirement is different. Now next one is the pattern repositories. Pattern repositories are there are many sources for design patterns available on the web. Some patterns can be obtained from individually published patterns languages, while others are available as part of a pattern portal or pattern repository. Such as there are many sources for the design patterns available on the web. Some patterns can be obtained from individual published pattern languages. That is, you can obtain it from your pattern languages, or you can create your own portal or your own repository. Next one is a component level pattern. If component level design patterns provide a proven solution that address one or more sub problem extracted from the requirement model, such as design patterns of this type focuses on some functional elements of a system. If a safe home assured.com application must address the following design sub problems, how can we get product specification and related information for any safe home device? So this is your safe assure.com. Here you can identify your home related safeties. You can create your own domain and you can create your own website which can gives you the solution for other problems too. Now next one is a component level pattern. May having enunciated the sub problem that must be solved, consider context, the system of forces that affect the solution. That is, examine the appropriate required, such as your device as a security sensor and the camera is used for information proposed by the consumer. However, other information that is related to the specification, such as the pricing, may be used when e-commerce functionality is selected, such as you can involve some problems search, such as if you take your ATM machines, then the security should and privacy should need to be provided. No scams or the cyber crime should need to be done for your bank's accounts. Now whole user interface or the UI patterns. So whole user interface provide design guidance for the top level structure and navigation throughout the entire user interfaces. So you should need to provide the navigation, page layout, address the general organization of page for website or distinct screen display. Form and the input, consider a variety of design technique for completing form level input. You can create your form, such as it should need to be clearly understood by your clearly understood by your user. Tables provide design guidance for creating and manipulating tabular data of all kinds. Direct data manipulation, such as modification, transformation, that is withdrawal, deposit, navigations, that is you should need to provide hierarchical menu, web pages, that is enter your card, after that your pin. So these web pages should need to be displayed. Searching, that is you can search throughout information maintained within a website or contained by the persistent data store, such as you can search your or other type of queries, or what type of facilities provided by your bank account. Page elements implement specific element of a web page or display screen, and the e-commerce are specific to websites. These patterns implement recurring elements of e-commerce applications. Now next one is the design granularity. So when a problem involves big picture issues, attempt to develop solution and use relevant pattern that focuses on the big picture. So conversely, when the focus is very narrow, for example, uniquely selecting one item from a small set of 5 or fewer items, the solution and the corresponding pattern is targeted quite narrowly. The terms of the level of granularity patterns can be described in the following levels, such as architecture pattern, design pattern, and the component pattern. So first, granularity's architectural pattern is here we will see some cyber scams or cyber scams which are happening on your, someone are going to hack your account, or someone are going to doing the fake calls or the fake websites from where you can you enter your pin and the amount is withdrawn from your account. So first one is architectural pattern. This level of abstraction will typically related to that pattern that define the overall structure of the web app. indicate the relationship among different components or increments, and define the rules for specifying relationships among the elements such as the pages, packages, components, subsystem of the architecture. Next one is the design pattern. So these addresses a specific element of the design such as the aggregation of components to solve some design problems. Here you are going to find out the hackers who can identify who are going to hack your particular system, or you can create more privacy or more security for your system, the relationship amongst elements on a page, or the mechanisms for effective components to component communication. An example might be the broadsheet pattern for the layout of a web app home page. Next one is a component pattern. This level of abstraction related to individual small scale elements of a web app. For example, include individual interactions element. For example, radio buttons, text box, navigation items. For example, how might you form your link or functional element. For example, specific algorithms, that is what type of algorithm you are going to find out who are going to hack your system, or who are withdrawal some amount for your from your customers account. So this is all overall your pattern based or pattern based architecture. So this is end of your unit number 4. Thank you.